Hello, everybody. Welcome to Eye Opener Society. Welcome back to our show. Thank you again so very much for joining us. My name is Gary Dean, and it says so. Whoops, says so right here on my little badge. The little things in life really just get me so excited. I made a little name tag that says has my name and it says I'm a minister, and I'm going to wear it on every single episode that I do because these little things make me happy. So, with that in mind, thank you again for joining us. We got an interesting little conversation that we're going to start up here because I want to talk about stupid laws. And I mean really stupid laws, but I don't want to talk about it in the context like, oh, this law is on the book and all. There's people that are literally either A, in jail, or B, being threatened with jail or going through court for really stupid things. Now, what got me started on this was just from reading on TikTok about some elderly woman who could not maintain her lawn like most people when you get elderly. Who is going to go out in 100-degree weather, push around lawn equipment, maintain a lawn, especially when you have no family left, no friends, or anything like that? There was apparently a woman, and I think this was out in Wisconsin. The zoning officers, I guess, cited her. She couldn't pay the money because, well, who can pay just keep a roof, to keep a roof over your head, nonetheless fine. So she was threatened with jail. So I did a little research on it and it finds out she wasn't the only one. There's a whole bunch of people across the country, elderly, that cannot maintain their lawns anymore. And this is ridiculous. We need to talk about these things. And I want to first say we have on the show today, of course, our cosmic fairy princess, Lizzie. And we also have our other minister, Elaine from the Arcane Oracle. Everybody loves her. I know you all love her because even though she has no social media presence, her shows that she puts on when she gives them to me every month or so, it's amazing how many people just flock to my site and listen to our show. And the stats are proving this. So I really appreciate both of you being here. So, what I wanted to do is just open up this conversation with stupid laws that are on the books. But the reason I have specifically Elaine here right now going on in Pennsylvania, I'm trying to get the owner of this shop to come on the show. In Hanover, Pennsylvania, I believe it was 2 years ago, shop owner of a metaphysical shop who did tarot readings. Chief of police came inside of her shop, threatened her with arrest, refused to allow her to tape the interaction. And this led into the archaic law that's on the books, where this goes way back to the 1700s or something like that. I don't know, but it's still on the book saying that any tarot readings for money is illegal. Any type of fortune telling, which is ridiculous because guess what we're doing when we turn on our television sets every day to listen to the weather report. These are predictions. Same thing. They should be taken to jail for predicting the future as well. So, Elaine, let me throw this at you because I know this one, you're a tarot reader yourself and a hell of a good one. But how does this hit you?
Well, I feel a lot of compassion for that shop owner. That must be an awful situation. And I was surprised whenever this discussion started amongst us about what happened in the Hanover case, and leading into the archaic laws that are still on the books regarding fortune telling and psychic readings. And yeah, I think it's a I mean, I don't want to get too legalistic or political or anything, but that doesn't seem to be in alignment with our First Amendment freedom of speech and freedom of free expression of religion and faith. So that's definitely how I feel about that case in Hanover, or the Hanover case.
And you would be so correct with that as far as our freedom of speech, freedom of religion. And the very good news is coming up in a week, the shop owner did. And I don't want to mention names and all, because like I said, I just want to give her the courtesy because I'm sure she's overwhelmed as it is right now. But she's taken the case to court. She did fight this. And this is what I say, if you want to get a little bit legal with this, sometimes the threat of arrest or the fines or the summonses is what's going to get the ball rolling because you can't just speak up sometimes to get these things removed. it takes a court case, it takes a legal proceeding to get these things removed. And she did win. She did, I guess, challenge the court to hear the case to have this law removed. And the courts agreed to it. So hopefully within a week. And like I said, depending on my schedule, I might actually show up. I think the entire community should show up to support her in this. And well, listen, just in case you're out, in Pennsylvania area, get in contact with your representatives and start calling them and start telling them that you support, removing this ridiculous law because it does tread upon our freedom of speech or freedom of religion. So, yeah, you're right about that, Elaine. I'm gonna get back to you, but Lizzie, our cosmic fairy princess, what do you got to say on all this stupid laws?
I mean, I feel like you guys already pretty much covered that really beautifully. Um, I guess what I want to add is when you first brought up talking about this today with Elaine, what I really thought about is how angry I used to be about all these different things. When I became an adult and I got all into politics, so I know all about it when I voted. And it just enraged me. It enraged me so much the way that the whole system works. And I spent a good number of years just rejecting the whole system. Something that they teach you a lot, like in the spiritual community, is what you resist persists and what you focus on grows, right? And so there was a good portion of time after my whole like dive into the politics where I dived right out, right? Because but as time goes on, I realize that it's kind of that discredits this desire that most humans have to help each other. But sometimes getting angry doesn't really do anything for it. And I think what really people need to do if you're seeing things in the news that's making you angry, like yes, if there's some way that you can and you feel so called to get involved, like calling your representative, going and being a witness there, like that is so beautiful and to do it. But the other thing is to explore how you're viewing the system and how you're playing in it. Everything in politics and government and all of that, it's written for protocol over compassion or equality over equity, expectations over the individual person. And that's kind of the opposite of what we need. And so it's really easy to go through and look at these laws like that lady who couldn't maintain her lawn. Like obviously at some point you can't push that giant thing around, right? And then you'll have the other person who argues, well, I don't want my house worth, I can't, oh my gosh, my brain's farting what that's actually called. I don't want the worth of my house to go down because three of my neighbors can't maintain their lawn. They need to move somewhere else, right? But both of those are just completely bypassing the fact that, like, at some point you're not going to be able to mow your lawn. Does that mean you have to leave your home? Wouldn't it be simpler if the seven other people on the block all took turns mowing those three people's lawn instead of going and fining them? You know what I mean? Finding what is like the individual over just like what's standard expected. It's really easy for someone at a desk to type something out and be like, here's exactly how this should operate. And in their imaginary world, that makes so much sense. But people have such this skill of bringing in problems to all these protocols. And I think when we disregard that, that's when I think we're left with these weird messes and laws where you've got all these people where they can't really fulfill what is expected of them.
You said a mouthful, man. That was a podcast onto itself. Thank you, Lizzie. Lizzie becomes more amazing every day. I have to, just say that. Thank you, Lizzie. I don't know. Here's something else I'll throw out to both of you too, because Lizzie, in contrast to what you were saying, you're right. This is a community, and I was actually going to build into this. This is why you're amazing. I think you're reading ahead into this too. Um, a good government, and that's an oxymoron. I understand that, but a good government would help. Like if there's a code enforcement that's going out and say, okay, this person's lawn is going, you knock on the door and you find, oh, this is an elderly woman. Would you not say, listen, these are the laws. Here are resources that we as a government can offer to you. Whether it be, we have contracts with a local company where they give you discounts to come out there, or maybe we could contact, like the Boy Scouts does this. They go out and they mow the lawns. No effort is ever made to correct the situation. Like you say, it's I'm sorry, Lizzie, you said it was like a protocol over compassion. Now we understand there's rules, there's regulations, a lot of things are in place to help keep things stable. I get it. But as a government for the people, we're completely blinded by this. Because it doesn't happen. It's strict protocol all the time. Hey, let's just take the person to jail. Is that doing any better? The person's now in jail. Who's watching the house? Well, now the lawn's really growing over like a jungle because the person's sitting in jail. And who's going to take care of the lawn at this point? No sense is made. So let's throw the topic a little bit different. Other laws. Think about this. And I've spoken about this before because this is real near and dear to me. We're eating poison every day because everything's processed foods. Some people like to get rain barrels, catch rainwater so that they can have a supply of water. Some people like to grow gardens to provide themselves with food. Depending on where you live, catching rainwater is illegal. And sometimes growing a garden, depending where it is, if it's in the front of the house, is also illegal. So if I grew a garden and I was doing that to sustain myself and I have leftovers and I start to give it away to the community, I'm in violation of the law. Elaine, I'll throw that one back at you now.
Ooh, goodness. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of laws like that, absolutely. Now out where I live in the heart of Indiana, southern Indiana, it seems like most people out in the countryside have gardens and they have their own stands, and a lot of them I see are honor systems. They're literally like throw your money in a coffee can and take what you want. I'd be really hard to imagine out here that ever becoming like a serious, like the law is going to come out and fine Aunt Carol for her oversized garden and her roadside stand. That would be an absolute outrage, but I can believe it. And I remember reading an article about Bloomington, Indiana, and how they have a farmer's market, but the farmer's market has to abide by rules that they cannot sell anything at a lower price than what the local big label stores sell it for.
Well,
they can take food stamps, but they cannot sell a head of broccoli for less than what Kroger or Walmart is selling it for. So
now that's interesting because now we're looking at where the real problems come in. Laws are set. Now, I'm going to put it this way, and then Lizzie, I'll get your thoughts on this. We set these laws based upon the almighty dollar, right? Let's not make any mistake about it. Most laws that are on the books is all about money. Because here's the thing. How do you tax tarot reading? Can you tax tarot reading? Who knows? Maybe, maybe you can. But the government's worried that they're not getting there. The government could say they don't believe the tarot at all until somebody's making money on it. And then they're wondering where their money is. It becomes a law. I'm going to give you my thoughts. I'm going to go to Lizzie, but here's what I'm talking about. From what I have looked at in my life through my, all my time, when it comes to laws, and especially stupid laws, here's how they're tested. They always go after the low-hanging fruit. The elderly woman who cannot mow her lawn, and then right next to her could be a crack house, a house of ill will and all this illegal stuff going on in it. Well, guess what? That house that's next to the elderly woman, it takes years and years and years before any type of law enforcement actually can get warrants and build up enough of a case to shut everything down. But we'll go after the low-hanging fruit immediately by going after the elderly woman because she's an easy target, easy to take care of. Get her in jail, prove a point, while the house right next door, that's a crack house, prostitute house, whatever the case may be, will continue to operate. it's a cowardness of the law when they do this, just by going after the low-hanging fruit. It's much easier for them to build a case against this elderly woman who's not going to give any fight back, rather than going after the bigger crimes that, are really causing problems in a neighborhood. So, Lizzie, what does your beautiful mind say about all this?
I do not have any good cosmic law uh to balance out why they tend to go for the low hanging fruit. That is something that's always really frustrated me. That laws only apply to poor people, really, because once you make enough money, you can just like pay somebody to take care of it. I always found this really frustrating because I've gotten a couple speeding tickets in my life, right? Well, that speeding ticket knocks me on my ass, right? A couple $100 out of nowhere. Back in the day, I was making $8 an hour. Like that would wreck me, right? But and so I wouldn't speed for the longest time. But I'd watch all these other people speed, and I know some of my friends would get multiple speeding tickets and they just like throw money at it. They didn't care, until it started threatening their license. But then, so okay, it affects me. I don't speed anymore, right? I learned my lesson. Well, I'm also okay, I'm not going to manifest this. I used to be really good at making people in authority angry at me. And so one time I had this problem where this cop gave me a ticket and I was in fact not speeding. And so then I went to argue it to the court because I shouldn't have to pay that. I wasn't speeding. Well, and instead, they told me no. And then he gave me a ticket a little while late, like a week later, for something else I also didn't do. And so now I had these like two tickets, and I was like, I was so mad about it. And overall, generally speaking, like I don't know what all I was supposed to learn from that, but what I did learn is that when these things happen to you, there's something being reflected, right, to you, whether you're witnessing it or experiencing it. And you can go down like the line of like shadow working or whatever, but you can also just ask yourself like, why is this important? And you can just become an advocate about it. Every time you point out how it's the laws affect the rich people over the short people. Yes, what you resist, persist, or bring focus on. But if it's already happening, not acknowledging it is more like bypassing it. So the more times you can point it out to people, the more people have this general idea. I think the more likely it is going to change because that person who's going to court to try to fight that law, she's probably going to win because there's tarot readers everywhere. Like it's kind of like a given at this point. It's just like a formality almost. But take this back 30 years ago and she might not have because the collective agreement about it has changed. Once upon a time, they would have just said, "Well, you shouldn't have been speeding. That's your fault." But now, whenever I share the story, people go, "Yeah, it is. Once you have enough money, no law." You know what I mean? It's like the general understanding has changed. And so a lot of times with this stuff, when it comes to you and you're witnessing it and you feel like there's nothing you can do, at least you can explore it and share this like new perspective with people, kind of get the ball rolling that way if you don't want to go to court yet for it.
Thank you. I'm going to throw out one last thought here to wrap everything up. And Elaine, I'll get because you had mentioned it and I forgot to say something. Because when you're talking about the farm stands, they cannot sell their product for less than what the local bigwig store. So if a head of broccoli costs $100 in your local Kroger, and this farmer decides, hey, I'm going to sell it for the 50 cents that it should be. Where's the legalities of this? Is the problem, and this is what I'm gonna my thoughts on this. Fishing. They've taken or they've issued um, summonses to children as young as 5 years old for fishing. There's stories out there. Google it. It's out there. But here's the thing. The huge fishing vessels that are out there, the commercial fishing vessels, literally take a net and drag the bottom of the ocean floors and bring up every damn thing, including dolphins and like, and destroy nature. Nothing said or done, about that. If I change my oil out on the street, I could get a summons because they're saying, well, the oil that's dripping on the asphalt is creating, pollution in the water. But yet companies can dump their raw sewage and or their waste into the rivers. And they allow a certain amount of it. And then, of course, they take advantage of that and they dump even more than they really should be doing. Listen, this goes on every day. And this is where we have to start understanding that big corporations, major corporations, should not be exempt from the law. People like me, around the 1800s and all, we lived without electricity. If I wanted to take my apartment and say, listen, I'm not going to pay an electric bill, I just don't want electric because I have battery or I have generator and I can run, guess what? I'll be fined. If I wanted to, like I said, collect rainwater so I could take my showers and all, I could be fined. Anything that has to do with self-preservation is illegal when you really think about it. I have so many more thoughts on this. I don't want to take up everybody's time. Elaine, jump in there, really, please. I want to hear some of your thoughts.
I mean, I agree very much vehemently with everything that you just said. I absolutely agree that there should not be we should not be dealing with things that are necessary for human life in capitalistic free market kind of style. It's never really been a good idea. I don't think it's ever going to be a good idea. So I absolutely agree with you there. What I was thinking, astrology wise, is that we've got the node shifting into the Leo Aquarius axis. Pluto, the great generational outer planet, is in the sign of Aquarius. North Node is going to join Pluto in Aquarius eventually over the next coming years. And, Aquarius is the sign of power to the people, of the collective, of innovation, of genius. And it's collectivism at large. And Leo is the sign of monarchy, of kings, nobles. It's the sign of nobility. It's the sign of the celebrity, of the elite, of rulers in the more traditional divine right of kings and central figureheads of power. The North Node is what individuals in the birth chart, and then on a collective level, what society and the current cultural zeitgeist humanity is embracing, which is going to lean more into Aquarius, especially with Pluto there in the next 2 to 20 some years. I think, Gary, I think you and I, and the way we think, I think we are not alone. And I think that society is about to make a serious dynamic shift towards more of that egalitarian power to the people kind of mindset where, there's the rat race and the capitalist game and getting rich and, self-actualization and getting what you want. And I'm all about that, but there's a place and a time and a season for everything. And, we shouldn't be playing the Monopoly game with people's drinking water. And, I completely agree with you. And then so much more. So much more. So, yeah, this is interesting and timely.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much, and I love you, but you just gave an astrology prediction on my show. So anybody wants to turn a lane in right now, we're doing that. No, you are so right. But
well,
here
I'm in Indiana, Gary. So we have the Freedom of Religious Expression Act, or Freedom of Religion Act. So in Indiana, that would be extremely difficult for the attorney general or any lawyer to come after me, because in Indiana, as a business owner, and I do pay my taxes, Arcane Oracle does pay taxes. I can express spiritual beliefs. It's as long as it's not obviously fraudulent and knowingly fraudulent. So.
Yeah, and I tell you, that's honestly a good point because, like, say, everywhere you go, every state you go into, it's like its own country. When we change laws every time we cross state lines, and sometimes within the state, within counties, within municipalities, laws keep changing individually. And that brings another point too, which I'm probably going to say for a future show because I want to try and get the shop owner on here, especially with you, Elaine. And I'll save it for that. But real quick for you, Lizzie, and then I promise I'll end this. All of this could be avoided simply because that elderly woman that can't maintain her lawn. This is what you and I, Lizzie, and you too, Elaine, as ministers of this ministry, this is what we're trying to do with communities and societies. If we all lived within a community where we know our elders are struggling with certain things, there's going to be certain people within that community, such as maybe, i.e., a landscaper, that we can now barter or trade whatever it is to get that lawn mowed. And then whatever that elderly woman has, maybe she bakes some outrageously good apple pies, right? What a good trade-off, if you're asking me. What do you think there, Lizzie?
I think that that's a really good point to bring up in this episode before we end it. And I think it's so true. And one thing to really think about is, we're getting really specific on that lady and her lawn, but something like this that you can find, I guess I call it like you can stay in your own passion lane and still help. Like, okay, so you hear this story, you're like, oh my gosh, they're at such a disadvantage. I can't believe we as a society don't take care of them. Well, I'm not going to go mow her lawn. I don't know own my own lawn. You know what I mean? That's just not something I tend to do. Um, however, I have a massage practice. And so as something that I do, because I think that we should be taking care of the elderly in my own passion lane, is I offer a discount to elderly people who are on a fixed income. I'll massage them for cheaper than I will most other people because I understand and they should be taken care of. I can't do it for free because I do need to make money. I got to eat food. If I was in another time and place, maybe I'd be tempted to do that. But what I can offer that's within my passion and my capabilities is a nice discount for them for coming in, and I get to help them feel better. Of course, it doesn't necessarily fix the problem of the lawn, but sometimes I think it's really easy for us to be like, well, I can't help that lady and kind of move on. But if it was brought to your attention, there's something that's important to you here. There's something in your passion lane that you can do for the collective as a whole here.
Thank you, Lizzie. That is beautiful. I want to wrap things up because I know we're all a little pressed, but real quick, Elaine, if you have any final thoughts, throw them out there, but please tell the audience where they can find you for your tarot reading since you can legally do it and you pay your taxes.
Absolutely. Well, I offer my services online or by phone, and you can find me at elainesarcanetarot.com. I also just want to piggyback on what Hannah, or excuse me, Hannah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she'll be on this show soon.
Well, I must have gotten the names mixed up for a reason. So sending love and blessings to Hannah. But Lizzie, and sending love and blessings to you as well. I love what you just said there. That yes, if we see a need, fill a need, you know. I don't know if there's any sort of like crowdfunding or anything like that that's going on for that lady in, I believe it was Michigan or maybe Wisconsin. I'm not great with details, but you know, I'm in Indiana. Obviously, I can't go solve her problem physically myself. That's just not tenable for me. But you know, if we can contribute, if we as a community, as a collective, can contribute to the well-being of one another, yeah, you know, I feel that so much in my heart that whenever we see suffering, let's try to do what we can to relieve that suffering.
That's a beautiful note to leave the show on. Thank you so much, Elaine. Thank you so much, Lizzie. Both of you amazing, amazing people. And yes, we can start our own little collective and keep an eye out for these things. Check on your neighbors, knock on doors, make friends, find out what's going on right in your own community. That's how we can start. That's how we can help. If we just turn a blind eye to it and say, oh, look what's on the news, blah, 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 that is not helping. Go out there, actually do something. My name is Gary Dean. This is Eye Opener Society. Once again, we thank you so much for joining us. We love every one of you and we wish you all well, and we'll see each other on the next show.